Hi guys, Pharrell Williams here with ARTST Talk. This is part 2 of ARTST Talk with Henry Rollins. Today our conversation continues with life outside of music, as we hear Henry's thoughts on society, people, and politics.
I'm not trying to cause unrest. I'm trying to start a conversation.
It's so emotionally grounded where you come from.
Minds have to change because the paperwork's already been laid out. The Constitution's the Constitution. That's it. You can amend it.
So people are not following the rules.
Don't treat your fellow Americans like it's box wine with a 30% discount. These are people.
We have ideas, and usually they look at us and they, oh, you're a musician, so what do you know?
Someone who would go across a desert that can kill you, you want to be an American that bad? I'm honored to share a country with you.
That's heavy, man.
It's as heavy as it could possibly get.
Oops.
Social agitators have historically played a valuable role in society. Isn't that ultimately what you do?
I personally wouldn't like to think what I do is agitation, in that I'm not trying to cause unrest. I'm trying to start a conversation.
Right.
I think in no way am I controversial or in any way provocative, in that none of my ideas get anyone killed. And so I do think that I'm one of those people that maybe Thomas Jefferson would say, that's what we fought for. He's got a big mouth. Well, yeah, that's what we were designing, for him to have this platform to do his thing. And so I don't know what I would call myself.
Well, that's a good question right there, because what would you call yourself? You know, you express yourself on many different platforms. I mean, what would you call yourself?
To be honest with you,
Yeah.
Why not? I'm a crass opportunist, in that I'm really not good at any of the stuff I do. I'm a jackass of all tirades. When I was doing music at some point in the 80s, Hollywood directors started calling me, hey, you're that crazy guy, can you act? I'm like, yeah, can you pay? Because this top ramen noodle diet's killing me. I'll try anything. And so I started my own little publishing company in the 80s to write my dumb little books, and I stayed with it. Started doing the talking shows, stayed with that. At one point, hey, you want to do a voiceover? Yeah, I'll put my voice over anything. Over rice, over noodles, and over your ad. And so I say yes to stuff. Why not? And so I just go running at things. And so what am I? Not only am I an American, but I'm an Americanist. And not really a survivalist as much as one who seeks to prevail. And I think one of the things luckily, guys like me have to do everything 3 times before we get it right. Thankfully, I know that. So I know that I have to get up early and try it 5 times, because the 8-year-old will be able to get past it in 2 times. So I have to be on my feet longer, but at least I know it. And so I just go at stuff. And it served me very well, in that my resume is pretty varied, and I have a pretty interesting life. I get to do different stuff and have a bit of access, because I just said, yeah, I'll try that. I mean, why would I hold back?
What keeps you up at night?
Deadlines. Worrying about what I have to accomplish the next day. I overthink things like a lot of people. The mind races, especially at night when I should be calming down. I'm kind of revving up. I don't like anticipation. I'd rather be doing the thing. I don't like thinking that I have to do it. I want to go do it.
Yeah.
And so that keeps me up. Basically, anticipation is kind of being unable to de-rev myself and to put myself down. So usually it's sheer exhaustion that kind of brings me to the ground. Thankfully there's an elliptical treadmill for that.
If any of you have ever heard my attitude about what I like to do to people standing on a moving sidewalk at an airport, this is a crime against time. And if for their own good, I am planting my foot in their ass. I don't want to do it, I am helping. And if you are standing still on a moving sidewalk, you think you have that much time to live? Are you kidding me? I am power walking, I'm vaulting in the air.
So you've done several USO tours. What got you involved with that?
Several years ago, the USO contacted me, and they basically said, we don't know who you are, but we have a sign-up sheet at bases all over the world. If your dream guest could come and be here, who would it be? Your name keeps showing up on these lists, so we don't know who you are, but the soldiers seem to like you. So what do you say? I said, well, I'm certainly interested, but you might want to check me out and see how jealously I protect my First Amendment rights. I'll say whatever's on my mind. If you really want to send me into these places with my leanings and my particular posture and my flagrant use of the First Amendment, you might want to check that out. And they got back to me and they're like, wow. I'm like, yeah. And they said, you got a lot of opinions. I'm like, it's like everyone else. And they said, well, we think it's fine. So would you like to come out and be with the soldiers? I said, absolutely.
Wow.
And that started a very long relationship with the USO that had me in Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait. I'm the first ever USO performer in Egypt, in high threat condition parts of Turkey, wherever they asked me to go. Plus several visits to Walter Reed and Bethesda Naval Hospital. And it's the hospital visits that were perhaps the toughest, because it's room after room. Never met any women, but I'd meet young men who had been injured. And these injuries, it's not like a skinned elbow. It is the most horrible combinations of limb and anatomical loss. The most poignant visit was I was walking down the hall with Shaquille O'Neal and John Elway. We're all making this visit. And a woman comes out of a small room, a small patient's room, and she says, excuse me, you look familiar. And I said, oh yes, ma'am, okay. She said, could you come into my son's room for a minute? I said, yes, ma'am. And I walk in, and there's a photograph, a color Xerox, of me on the wall, standing next to a very handsome, strapping young man. And she said, is that you? I said, yep, short, gray, and angry, that's me. And I said, is that young man in the photograph the guy in that bed who's in the fetal position with his face in this awful rictus and his hands balled up? And she said, yep, that's him. I said, what happened? She said, traumatic brain injury. He's lost, I think, 60% of his brain. And so and he looks much different. And so he sees me. The lights go on. He recognizes me. He can't speak. He can make sounds. And he gestures towards me. And she said, would you do a photograph with my son? I said, absolutely. So I said, move over. I'm coming in. I jumped in bed with him. I said, okay, in this picture, you and I are breaking out of here. And we're both like, ah. And we did all these photos. And this one was like, who is this guy? And so I said, I got out of bed. I said, it was an honor to meet your son, an honor to meet you. And, carry on. And she said, well, thank you for doing that, but he's not going to remember this tomorrow. Like every time he goes into a convulsion, he forgets everything that happened that day. And you leave realizing this woman is going to be putting diapers on her son for the rest of her life. And she had a 12-year break of diaper detail, and now she's back to it with an adult man. And it really puts a lot of this tough talk in perspective. We are going to, all that tough guy stuff. You're like, really? You're talking very stupidly. Because here's what it looks like. Here's what it ends up looking like.
Wow. Yeah. That's heavy, man.
It's as heavy as it could possibly get.
Right.
Because they're so young. These are all young people, young men. I think we artist types, we get a very kind of rarefied bit of access in that when you connect with someone via music, when you write a lyric or a book or whatever that affects someone emotionally, they'll connect with you emotionally. And I've had people communicate things to me that would peel the paint off your car. They've confessed war crimes to me. They have told me how their friends have come home and killed themselves after Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm the one they talk to. They've told me, my son was killed in Iraq. We found some of your DVDs and his stuff, and I just want to thank you because my son really liked you. And so people lay a lot of heavy stuff on me. They just kind of pull down the defense and go like, here, I've never told this to anyone, but I'm going to tell it to you. And so we get a real insight into the human mechanic that a politician would only hope to get into. And so in my life, in 32 years of really being up close and very personal with people, they've really given me an amazing insight into the great strengths and great frailties of themselves and also myself, because you can't help but be introspective when someone has been so extrospective.
But I get a lot of inspiration by leaving America and considering my America from abroad and then coming back and trying to use that inspiration to do something good. Usually I just get a lot of hate mail. Get out of my country, you communist! Spelled with a K. It's fine, it's fine. It just means you got someone's attention.
Talk about your interest in gay rights and same-sex marriages. What do you feel needs to change?
Well, my interest in it is that there are fellow Americans who are being denied their constitutional rights and their civil rights. They are humans. And they are being denied their First, Fourth, and 14th Amendments at the very minimum. The right to express yourself, your right to privacy, and equal protection under the law. That would be the First, Fourth, and 14th, loosely. And so to me, there's no such thing as gay marriage. There's just marriage.
Right.
So there's some people who are still hung up on, well, that can't be a real marriage. Really? They're crazy enough to do the paperwork. I think it's a marriage. And I'm a heterosexual. So I've always played for the big team. I've never had to have my sexuality be challenged. It's never been the subject of examination or acrimony. No one's ever said, "What's up, straight guy?" I mean, there's no word you can put on that. "Oh, you like chicks? What's up with that?" Like, so I don't have any of that friction. I didn't have to hide myself from my parents because of my orientation. And I feel so bad for those who had to hold their breath. To be gay in Wyoming, that would be pretty heavy.
What do you think needs to change? And how?
Minds have to change because the paperwork's already been laid out. The Constitution's the Constitution. That's it. You can amend it.
So people are not following the rules.
Right. And so minds have to change. Water has to pass under the bridge. And in America, if you look at your history, we evolve. As the Constitution amends, we get more amendments. When I was a young boy in the 1960s, could Barack Obama have ever been my president? No way. America wasn't ready. And so now America, quite obviously, is ready. And so America's moving forward. I think you'd be fairly hard-pressed to find young people really having a strong vocal disagreement to marriage equality. I just can't see some 17-year-old like going, "No, that's it. I'm coming down hard on this point." It's guys like my father, who's like 80-something, and probably clutching his AR-15 in the weeds of Virginia somewhere, waiting for Sean Hannity to issue him his next directive. I have no idea what the guy gets up to.
Is that really like his style?
Yeah. Yeah, he's just a real piece of work. He's also a PhD. He's very smart, but he and I have some radically different opinions on, I don't know, everything. But anyway, so it's going to be time, because I think this is somewhat a generational thing. Back in my day, those people, we all have our physiological limits. These people are literally passing away. And so in your lifetime, in the next 20 to 50 years, I think you'll see marriage equality across America.
The job of a citizen is to help another citizen of the Republic to free the potential of each person. That is a beautiful mandate. How do you do it? Well, it's just by being cool. But making that part of the preamble, like before you even get into the rest of the Constitution, you have to free the potential of each person. Now that's what I'm talking about. That's humanity standing on the balls of its feet.
Free word association. So I'm going to say a word or topic, and you predict the future.
Ooh.
Okay?
Okay.
Immigration.
Logical solutions. We're going to have to come to the conclusion that due to everything from NAFTA to everything else, you have a lot of people not born and raised in America who are going to be coming into America. And they do serve a very vital purpose. And so instead of criminalizing these people, embrace it as a great part of the very idea and fabric of America, and going forward on that and making immigration a sane, rational, and thing where everyone has ID and they do pay their taxes. And so a lot of things will have to change, but you'll have it in this century because push has come to shove. Someone who would go across a desert that can kill you to get to another country, you want to be an American that bad? Because I've never had to lift my damn finger to be an American. I'm honored to share a country with you. I feel I'm lucky that you want to be on this thing with me in this great social experiment called democracy in this amazing nation. That's how I feel about it.
Wow. War.
We'll make it irrelevant in this century. We'll make it irrelevant. We'll make it a thing of the past. It'll be something in history books where they go, they did that? Yeah. Whew. Like it'll be right there where they used to burn people as witches and they used to put leeches on their faces during the cold and flu season and they had war. What were they thinking? Must have been something in the water.
Okay, next word is healthcare.
Well, healthcare for all. Hopefully we'll come to the conclusion that a lot of other countries have concluded, that humans are complex creatures, and when they get older, or if they get a rough hand from Mother Nature, a human life is a costly endeavor. And don't do humans on the cheap. Don't treat your fellow Americans like it's box wine with a 30% discount. These are people.
Yeah.
So as you regard yourself and your family, regard others. And so healthcare should be a human right. And I think in this century, it will be.
Drugs.
That's a very interesting question. I think smoking marijuana is a monumental waste of time. I also think it's not any more or any less harmful to the celebrant than tobacco or alcohol. Things like crystal methamphetamine, bath salts, PCP, and other things that can really do a body some great harm and do the people around the participant or the doer some great harm. So I think those things need to be really examined. It's a bit of scorched earth policy to legalize all of it. But on the other hand, this war on drugs, in my opinion, and this might be a bit much, it's not really a war on drugs as much as it's a war on a certain ethnicity and a certain demographic of America. If you look at the overwhelming degree of a certain demographic and gender that crowds American prisons, and mostly they're there on drug charges, it seems to me there's a bit of a fix in. And so when you eradicate this fake war on drugs, again, you'll have some more quality. Because these people who are in the prisons aren't the only ones perpetrating. They're just the ones getting the more severe sentences for some reason. And so the war on drugs needs to end. And the only way to end it is the way, in my opinion, the Dutch ended it. You legalize. And I'm sure you've been to Holland. I've walked the streets of Amsterdam more times than I can remember.
Sure.
And where heroin is not exactly legal, but it's permitted. Hashish, it's there. I don't see people running down the road going, the republic is crumbling. And as I think as one of their politicians said, we're all bored of it. That's for the tourists. The tourists come for the hash. The rest of us, we get on with things.
Yeah.
And so I think all of those things will be met with indifference. Sadly, you'll have people abusing substances because that's what humans do. But I think the more you constrict the flow, I think you have more casualties from it.
U.S. government.
Government, I think America enjoys one of the greatest versions of democracy under the sun. I think America is very well served by the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. And so you have all of the, as Lincoln said in 1838, all the materials for your future security and defense. So you have a transparent representative democracy. That's why I hold no contempt for American government. I just want to upgrade it and improve it. But I'm not one of those, here comes the tyranny. Oh, shush, there's going to be no tyranny. But we do need more representation, more accurate and acute representation and more transparency. But I think by and large, you're very lucky with what you have. Can it use an upgrade? Sure. Can any system run by people use an upgrade?
When you see what democracy means to people who've been deprived of it, it's shameful that there's people here in this country who are allowed to vote and don't. Anyone who can vote and doesn't, it makes no sense to me. I walk out of this, I vote in a little church on Hollywood Boulevard down the street from the office, and I walk out with that sticker on my finger. It's my favorite deja vu. I'm like, ooh, what a rush that is to do that.
What's a present day problem that you feel like you have a real solution for? Because we're often, as creatives, we often feel like, there are things that we think should change, and we have ideas, and usually they look at us and you're a musician, so what do you know, right?
Or you're a celebrity,
Right. But for you, it's so emotionally grounded where you come from. What's a real problem that you feel like you have a good solution for?
great question. I think the biggest problems, at least in my country, in our America, all stem from one place. And I think there's only one real solution that you need, which is kind of broad brush, but I really think I'm onto something, and there's nothing new about it.
Come on.
And I'm not the only person who's ever said it by 10 miles.
Let's go. The cameras are rolling. I'm so interested in hearing this.
Well, education. And that is the way out.
Yes.
That's all you need.
That's it.
That's it. And it would solve everything from income disparity to even having an argument about marriage equality. Your prisons would empty.
That's right.
Domestic violence would plummet. Transfer of STDs from one young person to another would fall off the radar. America would be the skinny Elvis for the rest of the world, because you'd have this country full of switched on, very funny, very helpful, incredibly wonderful people, which we are already, but with an intellectual upgrade across the board. The fact that America is not number one in literacy in the world, and we're like way far down the list, should be the albatross that hangs around America's collective neck. I'll debate anyone on this, and I'll win. Because if you want things to get better, I can only look at myself as an example. I'm no genius. But I
disagree, but go ahead.
I was given a fair education. And so why do I not want to rob a liquor store? Why does it not occur to me to go and perpetrate some violence or to blow up something? I think it has a lot to do with my education. Unfortunately, in America, it also has to do with my gender and my ethnicity, which affords me a bit of leeway being a guy and all kinds of access being a white guy. And so that has to change. And so why would anyone be against that? 1865 was the year that America had the chance to get it right, and we failed. That was the end of the Civil War, and that was the beginning of the three Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th. Eradicating slavery, equal protection under the law, 1868, the 14th and the 15th. 1870, making race no longer a bar to voting for males. The women had to wait until 1920 with the 19th Amendment. And so Americans got freedom thanks to the 14th Amendment, but we didn't get equality. And that's been America's struggle. Are things getting better? Absolutely. But we have a long way to go. And that is the test of you and I in our time, in this century, in this country, to level that playing field and to come down on equality on every possible angle. And the way you really get that going is education. Because someone who's educated, if they have a sense of where they're from, then they can figure out where they are. And if you really know where you are, then you can lead. Then you can say, here's where we need to go. But only with a firm understanding of what came before can you get to the rest of all of that. And Americans are great. Really good bunch of people. We deserve better. We deserve more transparency in our media. We deserve more representation in our wonderful democracy. And so how do you get that? The same thing that makes everything else better in this country.
Education.
Bingo.
I treat these episodes like college courses for me.
Well, thank you.
This is by far one of the best degrees I've gotten. Thank you. Hey guys, once again, Pharrell Williams here, ARTST TLK. I'm sitting here with the incredible Usher Raymond, good friend of mine, talent extraordinaire, jack of many trades.
Bobby Brown or either Michael Jackson, that's what I want to do. They were like, yeah, sure, kid, whatever. I said, no. That's what I'm gonna do.
Now, at a young age, you're thinking like this.
Yeah, if I would have come out as a kid artist, I probably would have ended up kind of lost in the kid thing. But he put me with Puff in a time when Puff was hot.
You blew him away.
Blew him away instantly. There were many people who passed up on Justin.
That was never my reaction.
We're not gonna throw anybody under the bus.
This is ARTST TLK. Only here on the Reserve channel, so make sure you don't miss any of the episodes. You gotta click that button on the bottom. You miss things like this. Pharrell Williams here.
Hi, I'm Joy Bryant,
I'm Eric Ripper.
I'm Tom Colicchio.
I'm Dr. Frank Lipman, the host of On the Table,
the host of Across the Board,
Host of ARTST TLK.
Host of Hooked Up.
host of the show Be Well Week, Be Well Weekend on the Reserve channel.
It's only on Reserve.
Did you know that you can follow my show on social media sites like Facebook?
Follow us on Twitter.
If you're a fan of my show, hit the like button.
All of the above.
share me with your friends.
Treat yourself. Check out a new episode of my show, Hooked Up.
And if you want to leave comments, feedbacks, ideas, whatever, love to hear from you. Leave a comment.
And if you don't want to miss the show, be sure to subscribe.
The one that's like down here, or is it here? Somewhere down here.
Thanks for watching the Reserve channel.
Only on YouTube. Throw caution to the wind and ask yourself what rules.